Welcome to this evening's webinar from ADIO. We're very excited today to be able to talk to Andrew Greenaway from Andy's Man Club. We're going to be talking really about men's mental health. And of course, this week it is Mental Health Awareness Week. So it's a fantastic week to be highlighting mental health and of course, men's mental health. So hi, Andrew.
Evening, guys. How are you? Thank you so much for the invite.
Perfect. We're very happy to talk to you, and also more importantly, we're really excited to hear all about Andy's Man Club and really to get a bit of an overview of kind of what it is, its background, and really want to kind of know everything about it, really, because men's mental health is something that isn't really talked about as much as it should be, but a nice, safe environment for guys to go really is really needed.
Well, that pretty much 100% hits the nail on the head of what Andy's Man Club is. As I say, once we've got into the meat and bones of everything, you'll hopefully have a little bit more of an understanding about what it is that we do and how we go about doing it. So.
Oh, fantastic. Perfect. Then we'll finish with a few questions at the end. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put them into our chat and we'll ask Andrew at the end. But for now, we'll hand over to you.
Lovely. Thank you. So I'm just going to show a couple of slides, really, guys. I know it's a little bit of a break from tradition for an awful lot of you and how we go about how you normally go about doing things. But I thought we might go along this way and talk to you a little bit about Andy's Man Club. Now, some of you might have heard a little bit about Andy's Man Club, maybe seen bits of us on social media, maybe have a little bit of an understanding about how it is that we work. But I'm also certain that there's likely to be people here who don't know who we are, don't know what we do, and don't know why we do it. Now, the why, as far as Andy's Man Club's concerned, is always and has always been central to absolutely everything we'll ever do. So to help highlight why we exist, I'd like to start by showing you a quick video to begin with, please.
Annabelle!
So about 8:30 on Tuesday, 5th of April, I got a knock on the door by a policeman who just more or less said that they'd found my son dead. It was like somebody just stuck the hand in and literally ripped the heart out of me. It just come out, I just says, our Andrew's dead. I have a lot
Annabelle!
of conversations with Andrew. And I don't know if they're in my head or dreams, but I meet him on the woods. Where is there thinking about it? And I says, well, you give me 5 reasons why you should. I said, I'll give you 1,000 why you shouldn't. And for every reason he gave me to do it, I could tell him why not to and where he got it wrong. And at the end of it, I just say, I'm going home now, but you've got to make this decision. Just think about what I've said. And in my dream, he always comes home. And I would just say, just talk to somebody. He started playing football when he was 5 and he played for the same team. Right up to 13, 14.
Well, me and Andy couldn't drink, so when we used to go out, we always used to be with him a bit proper lightweights. And we'd have like, if we get out shots out, if you got Acker and you get 75p drinks or anywhere like that, we'd always end up, same time, going outside, throwing up in the alleyway and then going back in and carrying on. We used to do it all the time. We still laugh about it now, do you know what I mean? But like, funny, good lad, quality, just a proper lad really. It's like any other lad, do you know what I mean? Like, just a proper lad.
We're at the woods where Andy committed suicide. It's quite a different place with the trees, and it's quite special in that sense. How the trees are all different to your average trees, and this is where Andy chose to go. And it's a difficult place to be. Knowing this was the last place that he was alive, yeah, that's really difficult. This is the hard thing, and something I've racked my brain around doing a lot within mental health in the past, and there were definitely no signs. We were planning to do things. He had stuff planned, he had stuff that we were ready to go and do, and Then on the Monday night, went and killed himself. Potentially one chat or one discussion with anyone, just to see what was going on, just to let him know that we're all going to be okay.
As you could see there, Andy was a 23-year-old lad, like so many others of his age. Used to enjoy his weekends with his friends, used to enjoy his football. And then one day, with no sign, signal or warning, Andy took his own life. Unfortunately, Andy's not on his own. In this country alone, there's over 4,500 men take their own lives every single year. When you start to boil that down, that equates at 12 men every day. That works out at 1 man every 2 hours. And when you read that suicide is the biggest killer of men under 50, it just shows the size of the problem that we're dealing with. What really intensifies this problem for me is the fact that that's not talked about. You know, how often do we hear and pick up a newspaper and turn on a TV and hear about risk factors for men? But not very often do you hear about this. Because there's still a stigma attached to people talking about the word suicide, let alone the things that lead up to it. That's one of the things that Andy's Man Club hope to change. Luke, that you saw at the end of the video there, is Andy's brother-in-law. Being Andy's brother-in-law, Luke took a lot of the responsibility for the things that needed to happen after Andy had died upon himself. So for example, Luke went and collected Andy's car from where he'd left it. Luke was breaking the news of Andy's death to members of the family and basically watching them crumble in front of him. Now, Luke was of the opinion that if Andy had had somewhere to go, where he could talk, free from the judgment that we know exists around men, especially talking about their mental health, free from the stigmas that exist again, especially around men talking about their emotions, that it's likely that Andy could have still been here. So that's what he set about trying to achieve. He decided that he was going to start a coffee club for men. Now that sounds like a massively simple solution to a huge complex issue. As we know, simple solutions are often the most effective, but also as we know, we're British and try to solve every problem by putting the kettle on. Now this happened in Halifax in West Yorkshire. Halifax is a very staunch northern town full of the sort of fellas that are far too comfortable to stick the chin up and the chest out and internalise every problem and feeling they've ever had. On the first ever night of Andy's Man Club, 9 men turned up. For 9 men to turn up to something like Andy's Man Club in a place like Halifax showed that there was a clear need for it to do what it was doing. A few weeks after the start of the sessions, Luke had seen things like the Ice Bucket Challenge and the Press Up Challenge go through social media and thought that as bad as the reputation is that social media has for the effects it can have on people, when used for something like this, it can be quite a positive and powerful tool. So he decided he was going to start his own campaign. The idea behind the campaign was to use that very picture that you can see on screen now, telling men that it's okay to talk. You don't have to worry about being perceived as a weakness, a burden, or an embarrassment. Very much the idea that we'd rather listen to you talk about your problems and your feelings for a couple of hours than to sit and listen to your eulogy for 20 minutes. Now, the idea behind the campaign was that people would use it in exactly the same way as the Ice Bucket Challenge and take their own selfie, attach a screenshot of attach a screenshot of the statistics, and share and tag 5 friends, and then they'll share and tag 5 friends, and so on and so on. A couple of interesting things about that. The first thing being that as Luke took that picture there, he was sat next to his Mrs. Lisa, and he turned around to Lisa and he says, "What do you think? Do you think this is a good idea?" She says, "Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I just don't think you should be on the selfie because you're a bit of an ugly sod." Now, I disagree with Lisa. I'm not saying that because I think Luke's dashingly handsome. I'm saying it because I know how many Instagram filters he put on that picture. If you ever meet Luke, he'll talk you through what all 25 of those Instagram filters did, how good they made him look, and he'll also talk to you about how to hold the camera so you don't get your double chin in it and everything. The other interesting thing about it is that it's now been recognised the biggest mental health campaign on the planet. Over 100 million people took part in that, and it's still ongoing to this day. What's interesting about that, however, is that 24 hours after Luke sharing that picture, because of those stigmas that exist and because of the awkwardness that people had about talking about this sort of subject matter, not one person had shared their own selfie. Now, especially when you think that this is on social media, just think to the last time you scrolled through your social media platforms and some of the really controversial and out there things that people are very, very comfortable to share on there, but they're too awkward to talk about male suicide. Now, that to me tells you absolutely everything that you need to know. Andy's Man Club is obviously a very solutions-based organisation. Luke thought to himself, I'm not going to let this stand in my way. I'm going to text my dad because my dad's a positive male role model in my life. It'll make me feel as though different generations talking about these things. It'll make me feel as though some work's been done. Luke was also a professional rugby league player at the time. As a result, a couple of his teammates started to get involved and some of the fans started to get involved, and it started to snowball from there. And it snowballed so much so, in fact, that by the end of the first week, we'd had a massive result and Ricky Gervais had got involved. Now, if any of you follow Ricky Gervais on his social media, you'll notice that he normally only ever tweets about pulling funny faces in the bath or his cats. So the fact that he shared an It's Okay to Talk selfie for us was enormous. I personally then think it's great how he's gone on to normalise that conversation around suicide as well with the series Afterlife. I'm not claiming that Andy's Man Club's had anything to do with Afterlife, by the way. I'd love to be able to, but I just can't. But for that subject matter, as I say, to be brought into the living rooms of people on a daily basis in such a challenging way, you know, anybody that's seen the series, I'm sure you'll agree that 1 minute it's laugh out loud funny, the next minute it's more open mouth with shock because he's dropped a C-bomb on a child, to the next moment being head in hands, floods of tears with the emotion of it all. As I say, can't claim that Andy's Man Club's had anything to do with Afterlife, but I'd love to be able to. The world of sport have also been massively supportive of us. You know, we've got the likes there of Anthony Joshua, Josh Warrington, the rugby league player Callum Watkins. What jumps out to me when I see these guys especially is the arena in which they operate. These guys operate in very, very manly, masculine-based arenas, full of the sort of guys that are full of testosterone, and here they are, not worried about talking about the fact that they believe it's okay to talk. That goes a huge, huge way to helping challenge those stigmas around men's mental health and hopefully get more and more guys through the doors of our club. Other areas of sport have also set up and taken notice of us and helped us to improve, get that offer out there. We've got the likes there of Leeds United wearing Andy's Man Club t-shirts. We've got the front cover of matchday programmes, advertising boards around the side of the pitches, all the way to local level clubs wearing our logos on the front of their shirts. Now, this goes a huge, huge way to helping us reach one specific demographic of men. Those sort of men who maybe feel as though sport is their only outlet. Those guys maybe have a couple of unhealthy coping strategies thrown in with that as well, in that they might go for a couple of pints before the game and, that spirals into 10 pints and 20 pints and so on and so on. If they go to the game and they see their club talking about something like Andy's Man Club, it can really bring home to them the fact that there is somewhere where they can go and talk. What we're not saying, though, with this slide is that you have to be one of these guys to come along to something like Andy's Man Club. Through those doors of an Andy's Man Club, we have every single walk of life. Every single race, religion, colour, creed, sexual orientation, social economic background, talking about every single type of problem you could ever imagine a guy dealing with. The example I always use is of two guys that attend our Halifax club. One of those guys very much falls into this demographic that you can see on your screen right now. For want of a better phrase, his hobby is football hooliganism. His best friend, and a guy that he met through Andy's Man Club, has the hobby of jewellery making. These two guys whose paths would never, ever, ever have crossed had it not been for Andy's Man Club, who offer each other such unparalleled support, really relying on each other and helping each other out, is absolutely phenomenal to see. Ultimately, though, these are the people that we hope benefit from Andy's Man Club. We'd like these guys to benefit in a number of ways. The first one being that Andy's Man Club's quite unique in what we've set about to try and achieve. We don't want to have to exist. We want people to feel comfortable talking to friends, family, colleagues, brother, sister, doctor, man in the pub, man in the bus stop, whoever it might be, about what's going on inside their head, that they don't necessarily feel the need to come along to something like Andy's Man Club. Our hope is that by the time these guys are of an age that we're a little bit closer to that outlet. We also hope that these guys benefit from the adults in their lives finding out about Andy's Man Club, coming along, benefiting, and ultimately improving their home life, but really meaning that these guys aren't then touched by the pain left behind by suicide. Unfortunately, the young gentleman that you can see there in the middle in the denim jacket hasn't been that fortunate. That's Alfie. It's Luke's little lad, Andy's nephew. Luke says that one of the major reasons behind Andy's Man Club existing is because when they had to break the news to Alfie that his uncle Andy had died, who was his favourite person in the entire world, they screeched it out, put the windows through. Now, the pain left behind by suicide is like nothing else. There's always those questions that remain that can never be answered. The main one, of course, being why. So if we can reach out to more and more guys that were feeling the way that Andy felt, hopefully we'll have less lads in the situation that Alfie's in, less brother-in-laws in the situation that Luke's in, and less mums in the situation that Elaine's in. So what is Andy's Man Club then? We currently have 100 community clubs across England, Scotland and Wales. Those clubs are open to any man aged 18 or over. While we were born out of the tragic circumstances of Andy, you don't have to have had suicidal thoughts to attend. You don't have to have a mental health condition. In our experience, there's three types of guys in the world. There's guys that are currently going through a storm, guys that have got a storm brewing on the horizon, and guys that are just coming out the other side of that storm. All three of those types of guys, not only would they benefit from talking about what's going on in their life, they would also benefit from listening to what other guys are going through, and guys will also benefit from listening to them. The sessions happen every Monday night at 7 p.m, except for bank holidays. And the other unique way in how we work is that there's no referral, no registration, no signing in, no cost, and the key one for me, there's no obligation to speak. Guys can literally walk through the door, grab a brew and sit and say as much or as little as they feel comfortable to do so. And that's enormous. We're in the situation now where we've just under 1,800 men using the clubs every single week. We had 5 men short of 1,800 on Monday night. When you rewind 6 years nearly and see that we had 9 guys coming through the doors, that's a huge, huge jump. What's another huge jump, though, is up to those 4,500 guys that are still taking that step every single year. That's why we always take opportunities like this to talk to people, to tell people about Andy's Man Club, because in our experience, there's somebody in everybody's life that will benefit from knowing that we exist. We also have an online platform that was very much forced through the pandemic. You know, we were no different to anybody else in as much as we had to meet online, and we had to develop that very, very quickly. Even though all of our face-to-face sessions are now back open, that online platform still remains because there's people that are benefiting from it that maybe geographically don't live close to an Andy's Man Club, that haven't got the social skills to necessarily make it through the doors of a club. You know, they can now benefit and do an Andy's Man Club from the comfort of their own home. Now, confidentiality is a massive, massive part of Andy's Man Club. As a result, anything that's said within those rooms, and the online is included in this, stays in those rooms. That goes for the identity of people as well. As a result of that, we will never, ever, ever publish any of those online links everywhere, anywhere. All guys need to do to get into one of those clubs is drop us an email to info@andysmanclub.co.uk and we'll send one of those links straight out. Now, I'm just going to finish off with a really quick video now talking about some of the guys that have made it through the doors of Andy's Man Club and the way that those guys have benefited from it.
Worries and anxieties a big part of my life. It started about 10 years ago. I didn't want to live anymore. I thought the world would be better without me. I thought that maybe if I was to take my own life, I could be with my child. But I was very suicidal at the time.
As a child, it was getting bullied and not being able to say how I felt to people. To talk about the problems I went through as a child and everything that happened, I didn't want to.
My worries and anxieties started around the passing of my father in 2013. It affected me in my day-to-day life, it affected my job, it affected relationships. I didn't talk to my friends or family about my problems that were going on.
So the easiest thing for me was to not be here. It was a Sunday night, I think it was, and I knew I didn't want to be here, and I was planning that night to do something.
Thoughts going through my mind were how I'd be judged by people, you know, real bad thoughts about, you know, getting out of this life.
My worries and anxieties probably started a long time ago, but the most recent was last year. My cousin committed suicide. It was very hard to discuss my problems at that moment in time, as I couldn't even string a sentence together.
I felt very alone. I had a lot of people around me. I know a lot of people cared, but just something instinctively in me just wouldn't open up.
I never spoke about it with anyone. The problems have kept them in all my life.
There's a stigma attached to around how a man should appear and what he should say. There's an ideal view of a man, and I think people need to break the cycle of that and just not conform to that.
I know a lot of men that have struggled generally, especially in the UK. I think not enough men talk about the problems.
The first step towards helping myself was joining Andy's Man Club.
The only time I first spoke about my problems was when I first went to Andy's Man Club.
I first sought help through Andy's Man Club.
It's saved my life, really.
My name's Luke Campbell and I'm the founder of Andy's Man Club. I believe male mental health in our country has for a long time now been stigmatised. There has been three stigmas: weakness, burden, and embarrassment. And I feel that's a lot of the reason why people don't speak. They feel weak to speak. They feel like they'll burden others. And with the lad culture we have with banter, they feel like they're embarrassed to give any vulnerability away. To any man out there watching this, it's not weak to talk. It's not weak to ask for help.
Steps that I've taken to resolve my issues. I've started talking a lot more to people. The importance of talking about how you feel is phenomenal. Talking's really opened me up to people, my family, my friends. It's turned my life around. I'm happier than I have been in my entire life.
No matter what, I talk about everything now. I won't keep anything in at all.
If I were going to give any advice, it's talk to whether it be your loved ones, professionals, your friends, and if you don't have any friends, reach out. You know, if you are willing to reach out, people are willing to help.
Getting guys in a room and opening up and giving people hope, giving people a lifeline. That's what Andy's Man Club's all about. My advice to any man out there is that you will get through this. At times you may think that there is no other way out. that relationship breakdown, that debt you're in, or whatever issues you're struggling with, that you can't get through that, but trust me, you can. I've dealt with enough people to know now that that cloud will pass. That roller coaster on where it just seems like you're going down, down, down will take a turn and you'll get back up. You just got to look up and know that the brighter times are coming, and I guarantee, reach out, it's okay to talk.
So just really quickly before we finish there, I'd like to talk about a couple of things that pop up in that video. There's 4 guys in that video that talk about making pretty serious plans to end their own days. All 4 of those guys, from walking through the doors of an Andy's Man Club, talking, opening up, have all been group facilitators for us somewhere around the country. You know, not only are those groups volunteer-led, but they are led by guys who've taken that step through the doors as a group user. Now that's massive on a couple of things, really, because first of all, it shows no matter how bad the situation that you are in, it can and it will get better. But it also shows those people attending Andy's Man Club that that guy has an understanding about how dark a place my mind can become. That guy also has an understanding about the courage it takes to walk through the doors of something like Andy's Man Club, and that can be massive. We know that the videos we use as part of our presentation use what we now know to be dated language around suicide. That committed word is not something that should be associated with suicide anymore. This is knowledge we've given ourselves since these videos were made. I hope that no offence has been caused, and I'm sure you'll agree, the message that the videos puts across is such a powerful one. So hopefully that's given you a little bit of a snapshot into the work that Andy's Man Club does, and I'll come and take any sort of questions or anything that anybody might have.
Wow, thank you very much, Andrew. That was a fantastic insight into Andy's Man Club, and it's just so tragic that, you know, this is what it needed really to get this kind of publicised and into the world. But thank you very much to Luke for being the one who, you know, is kind of brave enough to take something from it really, and really try and turn this horrible tragic event around Andy's life into something so positive. And the amazing outlook it's had, I mean, the reach it's had is fantastic. And I love the fact that it's really pushed into the sports arena, because that is an area where you do think it's a very kind of very manly thing. You know, you wouldn't really expect them to turn around and go, actually, no, this is acceptable. But at the same time, I always think it's where guys are going to talk, isn't it?
It's also that they're role models for a lot of kids.
Yeah.
So it's a really great thing for kids to see. Fantastic.
Yeah. We're really lucky with the support that we've been given, you know, from huge organisations. You know, like just today I've been speaking to organisations like JD Sports and Foot Asylum, and Leeds United have done bits with us in the past. And, you know, that these huge organisations that have got so many men that just look at, even if it's just that they look at their social media page and see a little bit of us, you know, that's massive.
Yeah, it's been perfect, really. I mean, we wanted, with Adio, we wanted an online platform really where people could go, feel safe and talk online. And really what we've created is an absolutely kind of perfect mental health environment where people can feel safe, secure, taking all the boundaries away. So there's no real reason why they can say, I can't go. You know, they're not being charged. There's no judgment. They don't have to book. They literally can go right up to the last second and go, let's just go. And they can, and then get there. There's no boundary at all. We just love that. It's so inviting.
That's the whole reason we do it in that way, you know, especially the little bit about the fact that you don't have to say anything. Yeah. You know, the amount of guys that, you know, I always use an example through when I get to deliver this on a bigger scale, of a guy that walked through the doors. And he says to me now that one of the reasons that he's still with us is because when he walked through the doors, we didn't make him sign anything. We didn't make him leave any details. We didn't make him, you know, tell us what he was dealing with or what outcome he wanted or anything like that. And the fact that for the first 3 weeks, he could sit in total and utter silence and just ease himself into it and do it in his own time. He says that that's the only reason that he's still walking the face of the earth, which, you know, sounds amazing, you know, but those are the true reality, you know, real stories that we get so often, and they never, ever fail to move us.
I think I see it in my practice. I think when I take histories from men, they can give you a lot of details that they probably have never shared with anybody else. But it also, for some people, takes quite a long time before they open up. I can see people, you know, 6-7 sessions before they'll even remotely open up in their history. They're just, I think we're different. Women sometimes, maybe not classically, but, you know, women sometimes, you can see it's easier sometimes for them to talk about it. Men have sort of got conditioned not to, really.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think that's also, I mean, I think that's taught on the playground. I mean, I mean, you remember, look at primary school, all the kids are playing, everyone's outside. You start going towards secondary school, all the guys are playing football and the girls are in huddles talking. Yeah. And you start looking at it and you really see that massive divide. And I really do feel that the education system needs to come in and go, you know, we really need to start that early. You know, let's get everyone talking nice and early.
Yeah.
and keep that divide away from it. Really, I also think the girls should probably be playing more sport.
Yeah.
But
the pandemic, I think, has made that a lot worse. Unfortunately, the pandemic's just made it even harder for people to connect and talk. So it's great that you created. I didn't know you created the online platform side as well. That's really amazing. And for the patients I've actually been talking to about this week, they were a couple of them were too far away, and I was like, oh, I don't know what to do then. Now I know the answer to that. Thank you.
So we've got
we've
got a couple of questions, if that's all right. So the first question, I think we thought about ourselves as well, but one of our patients has asked, so if you were to have, as a woman, if you were thinking of your kind of your other half and thinking, you really wanted him to kind of have some help, you think he's possibly feeling a bit alone, how would you broach that? How would you broach trying to kind of encourage him to come to an Andy's Man Club?
Have that conversation, because the guy is probably wanting to reach out to someone somewhere, doesn't know who or where or how, and to have that conversation initially with him and just sort of turn around and say, listen, it doesn't have to be with me. Go and see these guys, and you don't even have to speak. You don't even have to open up in any way, shape or form. You can be as guarded or as, manly and masculine and all those different types of stereotypes as you want to be. Just go and listen to what they've got to say. And as I say, the fact that you don't have to leave any details. You don't even have to leave your name. You don't have to tell anybody anything. That would be my first step. And like I said, just have that conversation.
Yeah. What about the social side? Do you do more social activities and other things there?
We do. They happen quite organically. So I know for a fact that our Leeds club, for example, just off the top of my head, because I know they're doing this tonight, are in Starbucks on Kirkstall Road, because that's where they are every single Thursday night. We have an Andy's Man Club football team. We have an Andy's Man Club photography group. Lads that go out and have walks together and all these different types of things. And those happen really organically, because throughout the session, obviously, you'll chat to people and you'll have a little bit of I like going out at the weekend and taking photographs. Oh, do you know what? I'm banging at that. What are you doing this weekend? Do you fancy going? And it just, like I say, happens really organically.
I suppose really you also get a better environment as well, because some people can just think it's, sat around in a circle talking, but actually if you're also doing events where you can go for a walk, you can incorporate in something else. Sometimes it just gets the kind of the conversation going as well, doesn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah. It's always a valuable part, which is fantastic.
Can you tell us a little bit about why you went to Andy's Man Club? Do you mind telling us that?
No, I first walked through the door as somebody that was needing the support that Andy's Man Club provided. I'm now very fortunate that I'm employed by the organisation, but in the first instance, it was actually 5 years ago this week that I walked through the doors for the first time. And I was very much bowing to every single male stereotype you could ever imagine, burying my head in the sand, displaying an awful lot of anger. I think anger as an emotion is one that's quite socially acceptable for men to show. It's not uncommon for a fella to have a little bit of a shout and scream and show frustration and things like that. And that was exactly as I was. Couple of things had happened throughout my life that I hadn't really addressed, hadn't really spoken to anybody about, and decided to walk through the doors of an Andy's Man Club. And the first night I walked through the doors, I was pretty determined to not talk to anybody about the reasons that had taken me there. I was going to join in with the sessions and see what they were about, but I wasn't going to tell anybody why I was there. Because I'm a bloke and I thought I'd be judged. I thought I'd be ridiculed. I thought I'd be told to grow a pair and man up and all those, other horrible phrases that I'm sure so many guys have been used to. So I was so guarded. The way that the session runs is that there's a list of 5 questions. 3 of those questions every single week stay the same without fail. The first one of those is always, how's your week been? When somebody asked me how my week was, I talked out my backside, didn't tell them anything, just very much treated it almost as a greeting. We then had, what's been one positive from your week? Because of the circumstances that I was in, and I wasn't talking to anybody, and that included the missus. I told the missus that I was going to go along to an Andy's Man Club. That I got a positive reaction, so I was able to use that as a positive that evening. And then the third one's a massive one for me, because it's the one that unlocked the door for me, and it's a massively simple question. It's just, is there anything you need to get off your chest? And there's no time frame on that, so that can be something that you've been carrying around with you for years. It can be something that's ticked your box as you're walking through the door that night. It can be, anything at all that you really feel the need to share with people. And it was that question that got me to open up. And because of the other guys that had spoken in the room that night, the way that they'd opened up and done it so easily, and, I could visibly see them growing throughout the session as they'd spoken, and the reaction that they'd got, not one of them was judged or ridiculed or, anything in that regard. They were just listened to and supported and accepted. And that showed me that I can be that vulnerable too, and I can put myself out there. And I did do. and completely and utterly changed my outlook on life. So from 1 minute thinking that, being the strong, silent type was manly and everything like that, again, bowing to those stereotypes, I'd actually changed my mind to actually go, no, do you know what? Talking and opening up is actually the way forward for me. So
I think it's sort of showing you that actually that talking is brave. Basically, that's what it is. I mean, it's not weak, it's brave. And that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to reward people for doing that. And that's what we want.
Definitely.
That was fantastic. It also showing people that they're not alone. It's amazing how many people think that they're alone in these thoughts, and they're just not. It's there. Everyone's thinking it, and it's important to talk about it.
I think part of that is because there is that stigma to men talking. Not enough men do talk. So men especially feel as though they are on their own.
Yeah.
So they've got these things going through their mind, and they're sort of thinking to themselves, well, nobody else is talking about it, so I must be the only guy that's dealing with it.
Yeah.
Get through the doors of something like Andy's Man Club and see other men talking and listening to each other actually shows you, do you know what,
It's really powerful. It's really powerful. Thank you very much, Andrew. That was fantastic. And we're going to, when we put this online, we're also going to make sure that we put the links underneath it so they've got that email so people can find their local Andy Man Club. So thank you very much for that. It was fantastic.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for talking. That presentation was great.
Thank you.